Hey guys, it's Sarah. Thank you so much for watching. So today we are going to decide together whether or not I should purchase the new Anastasia Riviera palette. So I'm sure you've heard about this palette. This is Anastasia's summer palette for the year. I am always very excited to see new releases from Anastasia because I always feel like their palettes, especially their eyeshadow palettes, are really well thought out. They're not just churning out a palette every other week like some brands do. They seem to really put a lot of thought into the color story, into the formulation. I have more Anastasia palettes in my collection than I do from any other brand. I think I have 4 so far. I have Modern Renaissance, Subculture, Soft Glam, and Norvina. I didn't buy Sultry, and now that this palette came out, I'm kind of glad I didn't because I have to say I am really heavily considering purchasing the Riviera palette. But first I want to go through my collection and see what I have that's similar, see if I can dupe it. Spoiler though, I can already tell you that there are several shades in this palette that I definitely don't already have in my collection, and there are only a couple in here that I have that are close, but even those aren't spot on dupes. The look I'm wearing on my eyes right now is kind of inspired by the palette, and I'll let you know more about what's on my eyes as the video goes on. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the shades that are in this palette and what I already have that might be similar. So this is kind of what I have pulled so far from my collection. These are mostly ColourPop and then a couple of MakeupGeek shadows as well. So we've got kind of a similar vibe going on in here, and then there's just one shade, actually 2 shades that I wanted to pull from my Norvina palette. Most of the shades in this palette are either very bright or very bold. There's like a hot pink, there's a really bright purple, there are a couple of different blue shades that are gorgeous. Even the matte kind of crease shades and transition shades look, you know, like a little bit more unique compared to what I already have. So the first shade in the Riviera palette is called Sails, and that just looks like a matte white. I definitely don't have a matte white in my collection. It seems like such a basic color to have, but I don't have that. So that kind of shade is something I can see myself using mostly as a brow bone highlight. I have seen it, I watched Mel Thompson's kind of first impressions of the palette, and she used it as a brow bone highlight in that video, and it looked like a very brightening brow bone highlight color on someone with a similar skin tone to mine. So I would definitely use that. I don't have anything like it. For the purposes of the look I'm wearing right now, I just ended up using Tempera from my Soft Glam palette because I just had it in front of me, but I definitely don't have a matte white already. The next shade is Yacht, and this looks like one of the more basic shades in the palette. It looks like kind of just a taupey bronze. I mean, I don't know if I have anything exactly like that, but I'm just gonna go ahead and pull the shade Summer from Norvina. This is just like a shimmery bronze color. It's similar, but certainly not the same. That is one of the shades that kind of looks like it would kind of ground the palette and give it a little bit of like something that you could use as a neutral shade if you wanted to. The next shade is Seychelles, and I think that's how you say that. The shade that I picked for that, which looks pretty similar if not spot on, but it's Pegasus by MakeupGeek. This is just a bright, like electric foiled blue shadow. It looks like, based on the swatch I'm looking at right now, maybe not exactly the same. I mean, none of these are going to be exactly the same, but it's probably similar enough. That is what I have on the center of my lid right now. The next shade is Palermo, and this looks like a shimmery mid-toned pink. I don't have anything like that. I went through my whole collection and I really don't have a lot of pink eyeshadows, so that is one that I just straight up can't really dupe. The next shade is Seaside, and the one that I picked that's similar to that one is from ColourPop, and it's the shade Beam Me Up. This is kind of a blue-toned silvery color. I think it's a little bit lighter than the Seaside shade, but it would probably give a similar effect. The next shade is kind of a yellow-toned gold. I don't have a gold in my collection that is that yellow, but I did pull a sort of satin matte yellow from ColourPop, which is the shade Tiki, and also a shade from MakeupGeek called Voltage, and this is actually one of my favorite single shadows that I own. It is a duochrome white gold, and I'm wearing that on the inner corner. It's actually more, it's more of a yellow white duochrome. So this is a shade that, since it is duochrome, it's almost kind of a transformer shade. You could layer that over Tiki and you'd probably get a similar effect to that shade Inheritance. But again, I don't have anything exactly like that, but I am wearing MakeupGeek Voltage on my inner corner, and then the shade Tiki from ColourPop on the inner third of my eye, and I feel like together those create probably a similar effect. The next shade is Mediterranean. That's more of like a shimmery denim blue. Again, I don't have anything quite like that in my collection. I feel like that shade is actually kind of what I wanted that shade in the Milani Bold Obsessions palette to look like. I'll show you. This shade in the Milani Bold Obsessions palette, this is kind of, I wanted this to be like a deep navy blue, but it really just goes on the eyes looking kind of gray. And that shade is kind of something I've been really craving and wanting, and I would love to have it. The next shade is Estate, and this is, it looks like a really light peachy color. Looks like a color that I would use as a transition shade. I really don't feel like I have a peach color like that that would be just dark enough for me to use as a transition color. The peach I used as a crease slash transition color today is one that I'm going to talk about in a second, but yeah, that's a shade that I wasn't able to dupe. The next shade is Cabana, and this looks kind of like a mustardy yellow. That looks similar to me to ColourPop Paper Tiger, maybe a little bit lighter, and so I could mix Paper Tiger with Tiki to get a little bit of a brighter yellowy mustard color. The next shade I also duped with a ColourPop shadow. It's the shade Wait For It from ColourPop. That's what I used as my like transition color today, and that looks pretty similar. The next shade I also don't have anything like. This is the hot pink in the palette. It's called Bahamas. That is just like a straight up bright pink, and I don't have anything like that already. The next shade I do have something similar to, and it's actually one that's in my Norvina palette. The next shade is called Monte Carlo, and I do think that Love from Norvina is kind of similar to that. Just kind of a warm-ish mid-toned matte pink is what that looks like, and that looks pretty similar. Then there's the shade, I think it's pronounced Can, and that just looks like a bright matte kind of cool purple violet color. I pulled ColourPop 143 for this one. This looks a little bit lighter and a little bit warmer maybe, so not a spot-on dupe, but probably similar. And then the last shade is just like a normal matte dark brown, and the shade that I picked for that is a single from MakeupGeek. This is the shade Aphrodite. This is a little bit more almost like a burgundy brown. I have plenty of other deep matte browns in my collection that I'm sure would come pretty close to that, but that's just the one I picked because it's in single form. And that's what I have in my outer corner today. So, you know, some of the shades in here, I would say Seychelles, Coastline, which is that mustard color, and obviously the matte dark brown. Everybody probably has a shade like that if they have a decent sized eyeshadow collection. Those are the shades in here that I feel like I already have, and Monte Carlo, that medium pink. But I mean, there is so much in this palette that I have been wanting. I've been wanting more like bright pinks. I feel like that Bahamas shade would be perfect, like a perfect addition to my collection. Same with Palermo. That yellow gold color looks so pretty. The denim, like navy blue. I mean, there is a lot in this palette that I feel like would be a really valuable addition to my collection. I'll probably continue watching a few reviews of it before I really take the plunge and buy it, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get this palette. I mean, even just the outer packaging looks so fun to me. It just like screams summer, and I really don't have a lot of dedicated colorful palettes. Most of my really colorful shades are in the form of singles, and so it would be kind of nice to have all of that kind of, at least the color story kind of decided for me, because while singles are fun and a fun way to kind of supplement your collection, sometimes it can also be really helpful to have things in the form of a palette. So I guess to answer the question, should I buy it? I don't know if I really should, but I think I'm going to. I do have a $25 Sephora gift card, so if I use that, I could basically get the palette for $20. I've been kind of holding on to that gift card since Christmas, like not really knowing what to do with it. And I feel like that's probably what I'll use it for, because I just think that I would have a lot of fun with this palette, honestly. And it would definitely push me out of my comfort zone. Like today I was sitting down to create this look, and I had to sit there for a minute and be like, what do I even do with this combination of colors? Like there's so many directions I could go in. You know, I ended up going kind of crazy with like the blue and the yellow and the peach. Like that's a color combination that I'm not super comfortable with wearing. I feel like trying to dupe this, there were enough gaps for me to make it worth it to buy the palette. Just for the sake of really expanding the variety of my collection. I think it'll add a lot to my collection that I don't already have, if I didn't already say that like 5 different ways. So I'll zoom you in so we can take a look at the look that I did create on my eyes with what I already have. So I have Wait For It from ColourPop as my crease color and transition color. That's just that matte peach. Then I packed Aphrodite from MakeupGeek on my outer corner. Just to really deepen things up. I blended a little bit of that into the crease. That's that matte brown. Then for like the star of the show here, I took Pegasus from MakeupGeek. This is just such a fun color. I have that kind of just on the center of my lid. Then on the inner third of my lid, I left like the inner third of my lid blank when I applied Pegasus, and then I went in with Tiki from ColourPop, which is kind of like a mostly matte yellow. It's a little bit satiny, but that's what's on the inner third of my eye. Then I took this color that there really isn't anything quite like this in the Riviera palette, but I feel like it's a similar vibe. It's the shade Voltage from MakeupGeek, and I have this on my inner corner, and then I also overlapped it a little bit with Tiki. Then I just highlighted the brow bone with Tempera from my Soft Glam palette. And then I did also put Wet n Wild's On Edge Longwearing eye pencil in the shades Sapphire and Ice on my inner waterline and a little bit on my lower lash line. This is my first time wearing this, so I'm not even sure how well it's wearing in the waterline, but I'm just kind of testing this out for the first time. This is something that I could see pairing really well with the Riviera palette. Another one that would go really well with it is also from Wet n Wild in the shade Shock Therapy. This is like a shimmery hot pink. So both of these, if I do end up buying the Riviera palette, I think I will definitely incorporate these a lot. So that's the look I came up with, kind of inspired by the palette, but that's just with the shades I already have. But I feel like there's just so much more I could do with the palette if I had all those shades that I don't already have. As someone who's kind of a collector of Anastasia palettes, I don't have the Sultry palette. There are a few that I haven't bought, but I do really love their formula. I just love the brand. I feel like they really are kind of, they seem to really be trendsetters for at least when it comes to eyeshadow palettes, but I mean, they're a brand that started out with just making brow products, I think, and they even revolutionized the brow product game. So I feel like it's just a brand that I love. It's like probably one of my favorite brands. I don't own a lot from Anastasia, but their palettes are just one of my weaknesses. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm thinking right now. Let me know what you think. Should I buy it? If you have bought it and you've tried it out already, let me know what you think. Let me know if you plan to pick it up. If you already have it, I'd love to hear how it's going for you so far, if you think it's up to par with other Anastasia palettes. Let me know your thoughts. But that is all for today's video. Let me know if you enjoy this kind of video, and I can definitely do it more often. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, and I will talk to you guys next time.